Everyone talks about mortgage rates when it comes to housing affordability, and rates do matter, but there is another force quietly pushing home prices higher, and that is tariffs. Tariffs on building materials are increasing construction costs, reducing new housing supply, and making homes more expensive, even when demand slows. Today, I want to explain how tariffs affect housing, why this issue is often overlooked, and why it could keep homes unaffordable for the years to come. And this is not about politics, it's about economics. If housing feels broken right now, this is one of the reasons why. So what are tariffs? Let's start with the basics. A tariff is a tax placed on imported goods. Governments use tariffs to protect domestic industries, to discourage imports, or to influence trade negotiations. In theory, tariffs are supposed to push companies to buy locally. But in housing, that theory often breaks down. So why is housing vulnerable to this? The US construction industry depends heavily on global supply chains. Many of the materials used to build homes are imported or partially imported. This includes steel, aluminum, lumber products, electrical components, appliances, and HVAC systems, just to name a few. When tariffs are applied, those costs go up. Those costs do not just disappear, they move downstream. So what materials are impacted? Steel is a major example. Steel is used in structural components, beams, fasteners, and framing systems. Aluminum is used in windows, siding, roofing, and insulation. And tariffs have also affected lumber products, appliances, and wiring. So you can see how this can affect many areas of building a home. Even small increases can add thousands of dollars to the cost of building a single new home today. And builders do not simply absorb these costs. They pass them on to the buyer. So how do prices rise? This is where tariffs quietly feed into the housing crisis. The chain reaction looks like this. Tariffs raise material costs raise construction costs reduce what builders can afford to build, and fewer homes get built as a result of that. Supply stays tight, prices stay high, and even if demand cools, fewer homes are built. Housing construction operates on thin margins as it is, especially for affordable housing. Luxury housing can absorb some of these higher costs, but those are still impacted too. Starter homes, on the other hand, cannot absorb these costs. When costs rise, builders cut back on low-margin projects first. That means fewer starter homes, fewer affordable units, and fewer options for first-time buyers. So first-time buyers are the ones that are currently most under pressure already. They're facing high prices, high mortgage rates, student loan debts, and limited inventory. Tariffs only make this worse by reducing supply at the exact price points the buyers need. This forces bidding wars or keeps people renting longer. Even buyers with solid incomes feel like they're locked out. Renters feel it too. This does not only affect buyers. When fewer homes are built, rental supply tightens. And when rental supply tightens, what does that mean? That means the price of rent goes up also. Developers focus on higher-end rentals to offset the higher construction costs. That pushes rents even higher. So tariffs indirectly raise rent prices also. Housing affordability is not just a buying problem. It is a supply problem too. So why can't builders just buy local? You would think that would avoid all of the tariffs. Well, some people just say, just source everything domestically. And that sounds simple and it sounds like a good thing to do, but it's not. Domestic manufacturing takes time to scale, for example. It requires major investment, and in many cases, domestic materials are still more expensive. Builders cannot simply pause construction for like 10 years while supply chains adjust. They have to work with what exists today. And so this is not a partisan issue. This is important to understand. Tariffs are not unique to one political party. Multiple administrations have used tariffs in the past. The issue is not politics, the issue is cost. You cannot fix housing affordability while increasing the cost to build. And so some may naturally say, well, if we just lower interest rates, this will fix the problem. And while many people do believe that lower interest rates will solve the housing problem, lower rates do not fix the supply constraints that exist. And let's talk about how tariffs are making the housing shortage even worse. There is another part of this story that makes tariffs even more damaging, and that is the housing shortage. The United States simply does not have enough homes to meet current demand, and this shortage did not happen overnight. According to Zillow, the US needs between 3.8 million and 4.7 million homes just to meet existing housing demand. That is not future growth. That is the gap we already have today. This shortage is the result of more than a decade of underbuilding. After the 2008 housing crisis, construction slowed dramatically. Builders went bankrupt, labor left the industry, and financing tightened. And for years, the country has failed to build enough homes to keep up with the population growth and household formation. To close this gap, the US would need to build millions of additional homes over the next several years, not just luxury homes, but starter homes, townhomes, multi-family units, and affordable housing. This is a scale problem. Now, this is where tariffs become critical. When the cost to build rises, it becomes harder to close that gap. Higher material costs lead to higher construction budgets. Higher budgets mean fewer projects make financial sense. And when fewer projects pencil out, fewer homes end up getting built. This just creates a vicious cycle. We already do not have enough housing. Tariffs increase the cost to build, and higher costs just continue to slow construction. Slower construction keeps supply tight, and tight supply keeps prices and rents high. Even if demand cools, even if mortgage rates fall, prices do not drop the way people expect because the underlying shortage never gets resolved. This is especially damaging for affordable housing. Affordable housing projects operate on extremely thin margins, as I mentioned before. A relatively small increase in material costs can make an entire project unviable. When that happens, those projects are either delayed or entirely canceled. And the homes that disappear first are the ones average buyers and renters need the most. So while tariffs may feel indirect, their impact is very real. They make it harder to build at the scale required to solve this housing shortage. And that means affordability gets worse, not better. You cannot solve a supply crisis by making supply more expensive. If the goal is to build between 3.8 and 4.7 million new homes, anything that raises construction costs works against that goal. This is why housing affordability cannot be fixed simply by interest rates alone, and it cannot be fixed without addressing the cost of building. Until the supply gap closes, prices and rents remain under pressure, and tariffs continue to push that solution further out of reach. That is why affordability has not improved the way people expected. So it's important to understand, in this current situation, who benefits and who loses. Well, existing homeowners often benefit from their home prices rising, at least on paper. But first-time buyers completely lose out. Renters lose out. Small home builders also lose out because it affects their building supply. Housing mobility declines, and the system increasingly favors those who already own property. So, what does this mean going forward? If tariffs remain in place or expand, construction costs will stay high. That means fewer homes built, tight supply, and continued affordability challenges. This is one reason why the housing market feels stuck. Not because demand is out of control, but because supply is constrained by cost. If housing feels broken right now, tariffs are part of this reason. Not the only reason, but an important one. It is not just mortgage rates, it is not just investors, and it is not just demand. Policies that increase building costs make affordability even harder to achieve. So if this helped you understand the housing market a little better, consider liking the video and subscribing. And let me know in the comments, should tariffs be part of the housing affordability conversation? Thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next one.